Hello, everybody. My name is Denise Littlefield Sobel, class of 1975. I am the chair of the board of the Clark Art Institute, and we have several trustees here today. And just a reminder, please do try to turn the sound off on your cell phone. And I've been honored to be asked to be lead the discussion on arts in the Berkshires, and with three wonderful people who represent three great institutions, and we all really collaborate together. We have Pam Franks, who is going to introduce herself with the official long title, and Esther Bell from the Clark, and Susan Cook from MASS MoCA. And one of my first things I did when I became chair of the Clark 3 years ago was to reach out to all three institutions. I'm also a supporter of Jacob's Pillow, but today we're not going to have the opportunity to really discuss all the wonderful arts that are in South County, but rather limit our discussion here. And we apologize, we won't have, for all of us who are theater fans, much time to really discuss the Williamstown Theater Festival. But so I'm going to turn this over to Pam Franks from WCMA.
Thank you so much, Denise. It's wonderful to see you all. There's plenty to talk about with museums, so thank you for making time for us all to talk to each other. I'm the class of 1956 director of the Williams College Museum of Art, and what we thought we would do today is each introduce our respective institutions briefly, and then have a discussion around some shared priorities. As we were planning for this conversation, it was really remarkable how the things that are important to us are important to all of us, and how our work really reinforces and feeds each other. So Denise talked a little bit about this wonderful kind of opportunity for us all to talk to each other, and just being in this beautiful part of the world, I think really facilitates collaboration and friendship among us all. So WCMA, the Williams College Museum of Art, is approaching its 100th birthday. The museum was founded in 1926, so the centennial will be in 2026. So in a funny way, we're both the oldest and the newest of the museums that will be in discussion today. And that's because we are making a new building for the College Museum. It's been our honor and pleasure to reside in Lawrence Hall since 1926, but that building was never built as a museum building. And so now we're working with these incredible architects from the design firm Soil, which is based in Brooklyn, to, remarkably enough, make the first purpose-built building for the College Museum in its history. And it's an incredible opportunity, and I think just as a preview of some of the priorities and values that we're going to be talking about, Soil really is a very collaborative firm. They've worked with everybody on the museum team, which is fantastic, but they've also worked with everybody at the college and everybody in the arts ecosystem, and they're prioritizing several things. From its beginnings, WCMA has been all about art and learning and the ways that art can foster new thinking and new ways of understanding the world. So that's core to everything. They also have really leaned into the fact that one of the really special things about going to Williams or coming to Williamstown or going to Williams for college is that this is such a beautiful part of the world. So the idea that the new museum design will resonate with the landscape has been core from the very, very beginning. Williams also has an outsized reputation, and we're going to talk about this in the discussion, in the area of arts leadership and museum leadership. And so many, many influential leaders in the arts and museum field have come from Williams. And so we're really building the design, designing the new museum for facilitating that. And then finally, the fourth pillar, which is our topic today, of the architects thinking about this project was, how does the new WCMA really work with the rest of this ecosystem? So just quickly, I wanted to introduce the design so that you're oriented. For those of you in the class of 1975, the former Williams Inn was very new when you were graduating. I believe it was completed in 1974. There are a couple things that people seem to like about that building, but overall, I think we're all really looking forward to the new museum building that will be on that site. And just to remind you, here's a map that kind of intriguingly shaped gray area at the left of the screen is the footprint of the new WCMA on the site of the former Williams Inn, right across from the roundabout. So it'll be in an incredible location that is both a kind of a 5-minute walk from the Clark and a 5-minute drive from MASS MoCA on direct access on routes 2 and route 7. It's the gateway to town, and it's the entrance to campus, so I think it's just going to consolidate a really strong visibility and presence of the arts in this area, and just be such a welcoming statement for creativity and engagement with art and nature as you move into campus or into town. This is kind of what it looks like today. I say kind of because this photograph is now 2 months old and things are changing every day. Construction is well underway. We're pouring concrete at the basement level, but we're also doing a lot of landscaping already. We're reforesting the edge of the site, and we've already planted 400 trees. We've taken out the invasive species and the dead trees and are replacing them with trees that will thrive in this ecosystem. And then just a couple of points about the design. It is meant to be very much in harmony with the natural surrounds. It emphasizes transparency. I think the defining feature of this design is its elegant roof line. It's a single floor experience for the public and educational spaces. It does have a lower level and an upper level for workspaces, but the ground floor experience is really key to the way this building will be experienced. And you're seeing something kind of early on that most people won't have seen yet, and that is we're starting to think about signage and how we're identifying our building. And the sign that you see in front of this building is actually a bench. And to me, I just love the idea that our main sign will be a bench in front of the museum because it's welcoming, it's participatory, it says this is a place for you to get involved and come, right from the very, very start. It's also the bus stop, and we're really excited about the interconnections of our museums through transportation in this area. We'll talk more about that. A couple other views from other angles give you a sense of how sculptural this form is and how it looks different at different times of day. And when it's getting darker outside in the winter or early evening, it's luminous with the interior light. But the roof line really changes depending on your perspective. I think the other thing you can see in the view from the southeast is, again, the way that the landscape is so important to the experience. The flowering meadow really draws you in as you approach the building. And there's different for us, plenty of parking, so that's very exciting. The west entrance is more vehicularly oriented, so that's going to be a great new development for us that we can talk about a bit. As you approach the building, there is a porch, a beautiful, generous porch with a generous overhang that protects from the elements when needed or provides shade. The other thing that happens with this porch is you start to see one of the primary materials of the building, which is wood. This is a mass timber structure. A highly engineered wood is the structure of this building. And that's both really important for our sustainability goals, but it also gives a really warm and welcoming feel. As you move into the lobby, it's looking a little naked here, a little spare. There will be art, there will be furniture, but you can see how the mass timber structure of the ceiling really exposes how the building's built and emphasizes the materials. The other materials you're seeing here are not as accurate in the rendering as they will be in real life, but there's a masonry cladding around the walls, and there's bluestone flooring, and overall the material palette is really beautifully grounded and earthen in tone. And you can see here that light suffuses the different spaces, especially the public spaces of the museum. When you come in from the outside, you're never really fully inside because the whole space is organized around a central courtyard that brings light and green into the middle of the space. because we don't really have a building to talk about yet, we're working with renderings, we're also working with models, and I love this view of the model because it really shows you how the pavilions of space are organized around that central courtyard, and how that becomes an organizing force for the whole experience in the space and really defines the indoor-outdoor relationship. So there's pavilions of galleries, there's a beautiful study center, and there's a pavilion which encompasses a cafe and an auditorium, which will be a really great space for community. The plan does a similar thing, but with this color coding of pink and green and then the orange sort of lines and arrows. You can see how the logic of the building in relationship to the landscape surrounds and the views from outside to in and then from inside back out really are a defining feature of this building. The pink stars are areas that we're thinking about for outdoor sculpture. This is very early days to talk about it, but it's an exciting time for outdoor sculpture in our region with the Clark's project coming up soon. Maybe Esther will speak to that, but we're thinking about it now. So the pink stars, we're not going to fill all of them, but we're thinking about where. Quick sense of the galleries. There are 11 galleries overall. They are room-like in structure. They have wood floors. The common spaces have the bluestone floors, as I mentioned, but they also have wood ceilings to continue the vocabulary of wood that's present throughout. The wood in the galleries is actually acoustic panel, and this is really important so that people can have conversations and classes can meet in the galleries, and we're really attuned to the acoustic properties of this building for all the reasons. You can also see that in some cases, there are views outside, and in 2 of the 11 galleries, there are skylights that are, again, highly engineered and controllable. So it's not a glaring light, but it brings natural light into the space of the museum. Study center, quickly, is sort of the heart and soul of everything that we do. Just this past academic year, which wrapped up a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we had 228 different Williams courses, studying with the collection, teaching with the collection, and we have 1 object study classroom in Lawrence Hall, so it's packed to the gills, and we're really looking forward to the study center because we'll have 4 classrooms plus a study center, all organized around a student study center lounge that will allow views out to nature, but also allow for the kinds of intimate conversations between faculty and students that are so characteristic of Williams. And I'm just noting that I think we fixed the label on this one space. It says Northview Gallery, but it's actually the Study Center Gallery, and somehow the fix reverted. But there are a number of interstitial spaces where you can settle in and comfortable furniture and have a conversation or read or study or just look out at the natural views throughout this building, and the Study Center is one that's very student-centered. We'll have an auditorium, and we compared notes with the Clark. We wanted to make an auditorium that would complement what was available at the Clark, so we made a very flexible auditorium where you can have a lecture or a panel discussion, but you can also have a performance in the round. You can have a large lecture course. You could actually take everything out and bring in tables and have a dinner. The architects have been thinking about color in the auditorium. Obviously, this is all brand new. I'm sure some of it will still change, but the use of color is really specifically to suggest a world within a world and kind of create meanings through the use of spaces. And then we'll have a cafe. And as we've done different focus groups and conversations with students, campus colleagues, community colleagues, cafe was sort of top of list for so many people. You really must have good food, affordable food in a beautiful setting, and we'll be able to have indoor-outdoor seating in good weather. In colder weather, the cafe will also actually spill out into that lobby that I showed earlier. So we're really excited about this space. And we'll be opening in the fall of 2027. So I will pass it to Esther.
Thank you. And I think I speak for all of us that your success is the region's success. So we are so excited for what you have planned. I can't wait to eat in your cafe with you and come to all of your events and look at those beautiful galleries. It's just incredible for the whole area. So I'll just say a few words about the Clark. Our amazing archivist at the Clark found these photos on the left from 1975, if any of you happen to be from that class, Denise's year. So you see the museum building. The Clark opened in 1955. I hope that you all spent loads of time when you were students in the galleries, but if not then, that you've rediscovered it. And we've grown a lot over the past many decades. Specifically, I'll say the word first about this building, the Manton Research Center. So this postdates the original museum building. The Manton Center, which is now called, opened in 1972, and this is the home of the Williams College graduate program in the history of art, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's a wonderful way that brings all of our institutions together. It's also the site of our library, which is one of the most significant art history libraries in the United States, with over 300,000 volumes. And it's the home of our research and academic program, bringing residential scholars from all over the world to have offices, to think, to write their books, to interface with our art community. So there's a lot happening in this beautiful brutalist space. And since 1975, a lot has taken place on our campus. So we underwent a renovation by Annabelle Seldorf of our museum building, which you see on the left. It's, hopefully it looks as if as you remember it, but a little spiffier. And then the Manton Research Center also was renovated by Seldorf, reopening in 2017. That renovation allowed us to increase our study center. So it's something that WCMA is thinking of as well. You see an image of that study center. We host classes there. This is the home of our Works on Paper department. You are all invited at any time to make an appointment to consult any work on paper in our collection. And when you do, that's where you'll go. It's a beautiful, beautiful room. The Lunder Center was part of the Tadao Ando expansion. So Ando came on board at the Clark in 2001 and really reconceived the entire Clark experience. And it afforded us not only the Lunder Center that you see there, which is the home of exhibition space, also the conservation program in this region. And at the right is the Clark Center. So this is really significant Ando contribution to our campus. It drastically increased our exhibition space, and in fact, I hope that you'll all come in the next few days to see our new exhibition, A Room of Her Own, Women Artist Activists in Britain, 1875 to 1945, which is in that new beautiful exhibition space on the lower level. And I'll talk more about the ways that we think about our campus. But in the spirit of things happening, like Pam mentioned with the really exciting news at WCMA, I also just want, in case it's news to you or familiar to you anyhow, I want to tell you about our plans for the future. So in October of this past year, we announced a significant gift that the Clark received from the Asso Tavidian Foundation. This is really, really exciting. The Tavidian Foundation has given the Clark 331 objects, paintings, drawings, sculpture, works of decorative art from some of the greatest artists in the history of art. Peter Paul Rubens, Bernini, Van Eyck, Vigée Lebrun, Fragonard, and we could go on and on. It's incredibly exciting. And not only did the Tavidian Foundation give us this extraordinary host of gifts, but also a cash gift of over $45 million, which will help us care for the collection, endow new positions. So this is a really exciting time for us, and we're not as far along as you are, Pam, but we're just in the beginning stages of thinking about a new wing, which will be designed by Annabelle Seldorf. And you can see here where we're thinking of where it will be placed, and we're in the very early stages of schematic designs with Seldorf, and it's a very exciting time for all of us. So new things at the Clark as well. And I pass it to you, Susan.
Thank you. I'm Susan Cross, the Interim Director of Visual Arts at MASS MoCA. I've actually been there for 19 years, so was senior curator for many of those years. And I just wanted to point out that we have so many connections. I worked at WCMA when I was a student at the graduate program. I've spent so many times, of course, in that beautiful library that you've talked about at the Clark. And in fact, MASS MoCA gave away our own library because we couldn't compete with yours, because we can just walk down the road and use it. So MASS MoCA is just down the road in North Adams. Hopefully many of you have visited. It's actually an outgrowth of the Williams College Museum and Williams College. The brains behind it were at Williams at the time, and we're still very close and collaborators, as we'll hear more and more. we are the largest contemporary art center in the US, and you're just seeing a small bit of it on the screen. We have a campus with 22 buildings and many, many acres. We are in this 19th century mill building that has been adapted to become a museum. And we're a Kunsthalle, which means we don't have a collection, but in the end, we end up stewarding these long-term exhibitions. Hopefully you've seen the Solowit and the James Turrell and others. I should point out that although Jacob's Pillow is not here today, MASS MoCA also is a performing arts venue, or visual arts and performing arts. You're seeing on the screen beautiful glowing lanterns by Galari Kashkazaran, which is on view right now. And then just last weekend was our 25th anniversary, well, the end of a whole year of celebrating our 25th anniversary. We were the youngest until you made your new museum, but although also the oldest, probably because our buildings are from the 19th century. Last weekend, you'll see the dancer in red atop the roof was from the Drisha Brown Dance Company, and they performed their incredible roof piece for us. So at 25 years, it's a really exciting inflection point to think about our incredible past and then how we can build on that. We have a relatively new director, Christy Edmonds, who wished she could be here today, but she's out of town. And we're making lots of exciting new future plans. Not a building on our campus, but I'll talk about another building in a moment. But on our campus, 2017 was a year where we opened 150,000 square feet of gallery space, doubling what we already had, so 300,000 square feet. And we call it Building 6, referencing the old factory. And what's there right now are these long-term loans by artists like Laurie Anderson and Louise Bourgeois, which you see on the screen. But a lot of those loans are going to be ending in a few years. So what we're really focusing on now is an exciting new rotation of those usual older artists who have groundbreaking practices and influence a lot of the young artists we show in the other galleries. So I can't yet announce the next rotations, but stay tuned. It'll be an exciting moment for us. MASS MoCA, from our beginning, had a two-pronged mission, which is to present the art of our time and give a platform for the transformative capacities that it has, but also to really be working for the betterment of our beautiful home city of North Adams. And so this slide you're seeing right now is part of our commitment to our city, and in response to the city's North Adams Vision 2030, which the community and the city worked on to imagine what the city would look like that year. And one of the things that they talked about was what to do with buildings that were not in use and hadn't been used in a long time, and there are too many. And we're in the really early stages, but MASS MoCA just won an RFP from the city, and while we're still doing due diligence, essentially now own the Sullivan School, which if you see on the map is the yellow, and you'll see it's a bit far from our campus, which is wonderful because we've always tried to go deeper and deeper into the city. Sometimes we're on the edge, and we want to get closer to the cities that's our community. So what we're doing with this school, hopefully if all the assessments go well, is that we're looking toward adaptive reuse, just like the factory that was a museum, and we're going to adapt the school to make housing for artists, creative spaces, community spaces, like a community kitchen and a wellness center. On the theme of trees, there's also an ash forest, which is definitely in trouble, and we're studying that and looking to indigenous people who make beautiful things from the ash. So this is a really exciting project, which we'll be hearing more and more about. Also, in the spirit of our commitment to the city and the Northern Berkshire area as a whole, is a new bike path. So some of you may know there's a bike path in Adams, which is south, and then in Williamstown, which opened in 2022. And we're right now working on connecting those two paths through the North Adams and through MASS MoCA's campus to connect us. And then the end, actually, a little bit of green going toward the Clark will be the last bit to connect all of the museums and all these communities. So it's really exciting. And of course, it touches on many of the things that we're aligned with health and green transportation and community. So exciting things. Only a few of our plans. We have a strategic plan on our website if you want to read more, but so much to talk about today, so pass it back.
One of our subjects today is accessibility, and at the Clark we have committees called DEIA, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. And at the Clark, most of what we do is accessibility, and that has really been such an important focus. The trustees had a presentation a while back from experts in physical as well as other types of barriers that might occur to visitors. And one eye-opening fact for me is that the front door to a museum is really your website, not your front door. And for those of us who actually read newspapers, this was sort of new news. So I'd like to turn it over to Pam first to talk about how museums are addressing this issue, which really wasn't very much of an issue 50 years ago.
Well, I think, Denise, you basically touched on the most important thing, and that is that accessibility needs to be woven into every aspect of not only our building, but our practices and our digital presence. And I would just say that at WCMA, it was a great opportunity because we're building from scratch with this new building to build in the kind of importance that we place on accessibility into all of our processes and into every aspect of the design and experience going forward. And we had a huge leg up in that because we learned that the Clark had already had a great experience working with this organization called the Institute for Human-Centered Design. And so we could enlist their help from the very, very start to collaborate with our museum team and our design team as we developed the plans for the new museum. And I think it also has a great additional advantage in that there will be continuity between our two institutions in terms of strategies and really just create a very friendly kind of opportunity for access to everything. It's everything from, free admission to the fact that WCMA is the public face of the college to the way that the ground floor spaces really flow as you move through them, the grade of the paths leading up to the museum. We have a lot of accessible parking, and the website and all of the digital presence, as you say. But I just want to emphasize so much that our partnership was able to inform the way that we integrate our kind of hopes and our aspirations in the realm of accessibility and from the very, very earliest moment.
If I could just jump in, the accessibility is not only the physical accessibility, it's also, especially for the Clark, we're sort of the white temple on the hill, to continue to reach out to the community and to say you are welcome. You can not only open the door, but you deserve to be here, and we want you to be here. And that's just something that museums have to keep in mind.
Thank you. And I'll just say another word about IHCD. It's this incredible organization. I encourage you to look it up later, based in Boston. In our experience at the Clark, we engaged IHCD. They came to visit us, and they brought a group of what is called user experts, so disabled individuals in different ways to experience the museum and to let you know what you're doing right and what you could work on. And so one very simple thing, there's a long list that we learned from that initial meeting, and our relationship with them continues to this day. In fact, we're hoping to bring them back to look at our trails, to look at our library, to look at our other properties. But one very simple thing that they said to us when they came, you're paintings and works of art are too high. They're too high. If you're in a chair, then you really have a hard time viewing them. And so in our exhibitions, for instance, we've lowered everything by 3 inches. And it's really not a huge thing, but it's a meaningful adjustment. On the left, we think about accessibility all the time at the Clark. It is fundamental, and at MASS MoCA and WCMA, it is fundamental to the museum experience, and the museum experience meaning a place that is welcome to everyone. We think about it in our programs. So on the lower left, for instance, you see a tour. We offer tours to people suffering from dementia and their caregivers. So how can we make the museum more accessible for specific constituents? On the right, you see a mobility quad chair, and this is something that the Clark invested in so that people who might not be able to easily navigate our trails could enjoy Groundwork, which is an exhibition that Pam was alluding to, which is opening later this month, where we've installed amazing sculpture across our 140 acres, but knowing that that will be difficult for some people. So how can we make that better? In our work at the Clark, for instance, we have something called an accessibility working group. We meet regularly to make institutional decisions about how we can be better and improve. We also have a user expert council where we meet quarterly. We invite friends from various community organizations representing people who have accessibility needs, as well as people in our community who are they're experts in their own way. They come and they tell us, we ask them, what can we do better? How can we be better for you? And it's so important to be kind of open to these conversations. And there's, I will quote Charles Baldwin, who does this work for the state of Massachusetts, the work is never done. But you can't have hubris about that. You just have to want to do better. And it's really exciting.
Thank you. I'll just reiterate what Pam and Esther already said, that accessibility is at the core of everything we all do and what MASS MoCA does. We have committees, we follow ADA rules, and accessibility means so many things. It's essentially making a museum welcoming in every possible way for someone. And I'm showing this image right now. It's a new sign in our lobby, really just up for a few weeks to make sure that the moment someone steps in, there's a sign telling them where they are, who we are, where they can find things. Often our lobby is so big and people don't even know how to find the box office. And so hopefully this will just right off the bat be welcoming for more people. And of course museums, we need more and more people to visit or we're not gonna survive. Accessibility, again, means so many things. Language can be a barrier. The Spanish language is the second most spoken in Massachusetts and New York, and actually even the world. So we've made a decision to have all our didactics in Spanish, the wall text in the galleries, and then the gallery guides you can find online. And then we also started giving ASL tours, American Sign Language tours, for an exhibition with a deaf artist named Joseph Grigley. But we're all really excited to continue those and to keep continuing to serve more and more communities that have different barriers to the museum experience. And then accessibility and access is also for the voices inside the museum. MASS MoCA has had 2 and then 3 curators for nearly 2 decades, and we started a beautiful program called the Curatorial Exchange Initiative to invite 6 BIPOC curators from different parts of the country and in different stages of their career to bring their voices, their experiences, their different perspectives into MASS MoCA. So the first show is up right now. Steve Locke, his exhibition curated by Evan Garza, who actually was part of the CEI but is now on staff, which is very exciting. And so over the next few years, you'll see these exhibitions by these guest curators, and it's just been really a thrilling new program at MASS MoCA. And then access, of course, means, as Pam said, free admission sometimes. And we have our community days, which people love. But then we also have this incredible Sky Space by James Turrell. I hope you all will visit. I think it's permanent, so you have some time. You don't have to rush. But Even though this is deep in our campus, you can access it without paying. You can just make a reservation, and there's a self-guided tour, and it's a beautiful experience that's meant to be experienced at dawn and dusk, when normally you don't have any access to the museum, but you can do that now. So again, we could talk about how accessibility touches our experience in every way, but those are just a few that we're excited about at MASS MoCA.
I also wanted to say one of the proudest things I feel that the Clark, that I'm proud of for the Clark, is the first iteration of groundwork, which opened just as the pandemic was starting, and we could still open our museum in the 140 acres, even though the building itself was closed. And I like to think that the community enjoyed that and appreciated it. In fact, the only thing we kept open were the restrooms, and that's true all year long, that people can come and enjoy the outside of the Clark without having to go inside. And for us to realize that people experience the museum in different ways. You could still be part of the Clark without going inside, and vice versa.
I think we wanted to talk a little bit about what we are learning from each other in the realm of sustainability. It's certainly a top priority for all of us. With the Williams College Museum of Art, the kind of core of our thinking about sustainability is the fact that, museums, to have a future, they have to be more sustainable. So it's really entwined in our educational mission, and thinking about how students of today learn how to make possible more sustainable museums going forward. So part of that is really very possible at the moment, because we're making a new building and we're working toward a very ambitious sustainability certification, the Living Building Challenge Core, which means using 70% less energy than comparable museums in comparable climates. And it is also encompassing all sorts of things about museum practice and the health and happiness of the people who inhabit the building. So it's a super ambitious project. Our mass timber structure, which I mentioned earlier, is a key part of attaining this ambitious sustainability program, and I think it's both because it's a renewable material, but also because of the experience of the building and the way that it creates this very welcoming and pleasant experience for the people who inhabit and visit the building. We're also thinking a lot about water management. The slide on the lower left is a storm trap that you will never see again after this slide. It's actually going to be underneath the parking lot, but it allows for water, even in a very strong downpour, to be kind of collected and managed before it either comes back to the building for gray water use or very gradually is filtered and goes back out to the surrounding streams and rivers. So water management is happening through the storm trap and also throughout the landscape. That's a key part of our sustainability. I mentioned reforestation and all of the landscaping that's happening. It's a very holistic approach to sustainability, and sort of building that into the way that we teach about the possibilities of museums is a whole new world for us. It's so exciting to be able to use the building as a kind of laboratory for learning what's possible to make our museums greener going forward. And the students who come through will bring those lessons out into the world and make all museums greener for all of us so that they'll have a better future.
Absolutely. So many resonances with what you just said, with how we're working at the Clark and how we have been over the past decades. I'm just showing you, this is one of many images I could show you of our grounds, but having 140 acres actually gives us a lot of opportunity to think about how to talk about sustainability and the environment. And I'm really excited to share with you that we just posted a new position that we'll be filling soon for a new nature educator. So this will become a part of our programming as well. Here, right along the lines of what you were talking about, Pam. This is one of my favorite features of the Clark campus, our beautiful reflecting pool. Underneath this reflecting pool is a 175,000 gallon reservoir that also recycles water, and it helps us reduce our water consumption by 1 million gallons a year. So water is very important to us as well. And this is one of my favorite sustainability environmental projects that we have. In 2017, we launched the Clark Bees program, which has introduced over 200,000 bees to our community, which helps pollinate and keep all of our environments really, really beautiful. I should also say that at the Clark, we recently hired a full-time position, someone called a sustainability projects manager, a really talented young man who is coming to us from IKEA, where he worked on sustainability practices. And he's working to help coordinate across the institution throughout departments how we can all improve our day-to-day practices just as a business to be more sustainable. And this is really, I think, where museums need to be headed. And this is just a small thing. So we think big picture holistically, but we also think what are the kind of the low-hanging fruit? What are the small adjustments we can make to be better? And this is an example for our 2023 exhibition of Munch. Instead of using a huge, beautiful vinyl graphic made of plastic and bad things for the environment, we decided to hand paint our sign. And so all to say, each department is thinking about little and large ways that we can improve and be better for the future.
I just wanted to mention, as you're handing the clicker off to Susan, that I didn't mention before, but I probably should have, that in planning for the new museum, we're really planning for reusable temporary exhibition walls and for reducing waste in our ongoing practice and in every way we can think of.
This is on all our minds, isn't it? And I wanted to share that MASS MoCA received a grant for me and another curator, one of the CEI curators, to participate in a program called Climate Action for Curators, with the idea that we'll start looking at our exhibitions and then grow it out to the rest of the staff and learn about things like, hey, you don't have to do vinyl. You can actually employ a local person to paint a sign, and we're tracking our carbon footprint with the shipping and making decisions, which is that kind of knowledge. It's really thrilling and exciting. And I remember Williams College Museum was doing this about a decade ago. You were already way ahead. So a big part of MASS MoCA's future is, the greening of MASS MoCA, as we call it. And it's interesting seeing the photos of the beautiful nature that surrounds your museums. And we have a gorgeous mountain in front of us and in back of us, but the immediate surrounds of MASS MoCA it's a lot of asphalt, which of course is not good for heat and other things. So we're planning on the greening of MASS MoCA, and you can see this schematic of how much asphalt we're hoping to change out into softscape, and planting more and more trees. And also, of course, water is a big theme for all of us. And we're rethinking our runoff, and rain travels along our asphalt and past, once toxic spaces from our past as an industrial building and into the river. So we're really rethinking that. And going back to your comment about students, our director of facilities and campus planning actually co-taught a class at Williams, and those students were thinking about our situation and what we could do about catchment and runoff, and made these beautiful proposals, which someday will come to be. Very exciting. So we're learning a lot from them. As I've said a number of times now, we're this old industrial building, and it needs to be maintained, and it needs to be brought up to standards that are sustainable for our durability and the planet. So we're really thinking about that. We have so many windows, as you see here, and we're just doing assessments now about what we can do about that so we don't lose so much energy. And on the roof, we have as many solar panels as we do have windows, nearly 2,000. And it's very exciting because all of our electricity is from solar energy. 20% comes from the panels on our roof, and then the other 80% from solar buy-ins that we do. So that's exciting. Full disclosure, our heat is another condition. It's oil, but we're all learning it's bit by bit how we can make these changes. But we're also hoping to get rid of single-use plastic on our campus. just the big and the small are really makes a difference. And of course, for years, we've had exhibitions that deal with sustainability. There's a show right now by Johan Breiding that is a collaboration with WCMA, which thinks about climate change and the melting of the Rhone Glacier. So I'm really pleased that we're thinking about this holistically and thinking about sustainability with our buildings and our campus and just every level.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about well-being and how museums can contribute to human well-being. One of the things we often think about at the college and at the college museum is the fact that while there is so much academic and curricular collaboration, we all know that students learn just as much outside of the classroom as they learn inside of the classroom. And so as we think about making the new WCMA, we're really thinking about creating spaces where that kind of extracurricular or the rest of life learning can happen in beautiful ways. So what kinds of social spaces, what kinds of places where you can settle in and really center yourself by engaging with nature or by just reflecting or reading a book, and kind of trying to make sure that those spaces are equally kind of cared for and thoughtful as the rest of the design. We've interviewed students many, many times over the course of planning for the new building, and students often say they just, they love being in this landscape, they love the natural surrounds, and they like the buildings on campus to have windows, but please could we, in making the new museum, not have the window look out onto a parking lot? And so we've worked really carefully on the directions of the views and what kinds of ways that those connections between the indoor experience and then the beautiful natural surrounds can kind of enhance the opportunity to just sort of go somewhere where you feel comfortable and you want to be and you feel like really that you can center yourself.
Absolutely. And well-being is something we think about at the Clark all the time. It might be just like going a little jaunt with some snowshoes on our 140-acre campus. But it's also something that our Division of Learning and Engagement at the Clark is deeply invested in. They, in fact, just hosted an international colloquium of educators from leading museums across the world to come and talk about well-being on our campus and how it could benefit the greater museum landscape. At the center of our mission and philosophy is that engaging with art and nature enhances your well-being, and this is proven to be true. Our Division of Learning and Engagement, for instance, is very interested in neuropsychology and how your brain is affected by experiences with art. And we really do believe that meaningful engagements in the museum can help with your stress, can lower your blood pressure, can just make your life better, truly. On the right, you see a book entitled Forest Bathing. This, in fact, forest bathing is a Japanese tradition historically, and we have been developing programs in our forests for people to have meaningful engagement with nature and have a forest bath. And then afterwards, they go inside and they look at paintings together. And I would say this, I will tell you, this program is consistently sold out. It has proven to be really successful. Another way that we think about well-being is are two programs that I'm really, really proud of, developed by our team. One is a partnership with healthcare professionals. So we have a network of local psychologists and psychiatrists who can offer a prescription to the Clark to come and have free admission and to spend your day looking at art and making your life better. That program became so successful, and by word of mouth, a local trauma surgeon approached us and said, we would like to develop a similar program for local trauma surgeons to prescribe to patients who are recovering. And this is really exciting. We've now been approached by other museums across the country who are interested in developing similar programs. So well-being is something that we think about deeply, and I know you are too, Susan.
Yoga says well-being, right? We do it for our staff and our visitors, and it's nice to think of an experience at a museum holistically, mind and body. We also think of well-being for our visitors and our artists, and how they can feel safe within our galleries. This is an exhibition currently up by Jeffrey Gibson, who represented the U.S. at the U.S. Pavilion at the Venice Biennale last year. And he's indigenous, he's queer, and he's created this beautiful safe haven for other artists and visitors whose identities might make the world feel a little bit precarious, if not dangerous. So we hope that we offer a safe space for many, many people. Another current exhibition by Alison Pebworth called Cultural Apothecary. She invites people to sit down and rest and take a moment for ourselves and to think about our emotional well-being, and she serves tea, or our museum attendants rather serve tea that was developed with Wild Soul River, a wonderful place here in Williamstown, that thinks about healing. And it's always great when we're not rushing through and looking at art in the statistical 6 seconds, I believe, which is usually what people spend. And we help people learn to, sit down and take a moment for themselves and to think about the art. Same thing with some of our outdoor installations, which offer a place to rest and think and process what we've seen or just what's going on in our life. It's wonderful, how art, and so many articles really do prove scientifically that art makes us feel better and relieves stress, and actually is good for your brain cognitively too. So.
Also I've certainly noticed that many people who are younger than I am use the Bloomberg app, and they can have accessible information in many languages, which we have at the Clark. But so many people take a picture of the painting or sculpture and then take a picture of the label, and then they move on, and they repeat this with other works that they want to see at a later date. And at first I thought, oh, that's not the way I look at art. But they're sharing it with so many people, and they're doing it in a way that they can look back and enjoy it in a different way. So that's, we have to embrace other ways of enjoying the museum.
We have, our mission focuses on transformative experiences with art in a liberal arts setting, and lifelong learning and human connection. So to your point, Denise, I think the ways that people are connecting through art, whether it's within the space of the museum in the present moment or digitally over time, is really something that we're all thinking about strategically when it comes to community. And we are community. I just wanted to emphasize 2 spaces that I mentioned before, the auditorium and the cafe, as very deliberately spaces of community. One of the 2 or 3 things that people have sort of regretted about the former Williams Inn not being on the space is that the restaurant's not there, and it was a place where they met friends for coffee. So the idea that the cafe is going to be a place where we could meet and share a bite or a cup of coffee is super exciting, I think, to all of us. And obviously, I already talked about the way that our various performance spaces and auditoriums complement each other, and I just envision us and all of our visitors moving from museum to museum for different types of programs and performances, really kind of enhancing that sense of community among us all.
Yes, I mean, we're so interested and committed to serving our communities. So not in singular, but there are so many aspects of what community means. Here's just a smattering of some of our programs where we're trying to really invite as many parts of the communities that we can. The lower left, for instance, is a new parents tour that we give. Parents might not want to bring their screaming child to the museum because they're intimidated. So why not have a program when the museum is closed? And so those sleepless parents feel supported. And guess what? Then they'll want to come back, and those kids will experience the museum from the earliest age, and you're kind of building the next generation. The lower right is a program that we're really proud of called RAISE. This is a program that lasts for 5 courses. It's for young individuals in Berkshire County who have faced trouble and are part of the system, and instead of being punished, they can come to the Clark and engage with art with a parent or caretaker, and this is an amazing program that has been recognized internationally. And a heartwarming story is that one of the former students who participated in this program as a youth is now a probation officer in Berkshire County who works for the program. So a really kind of spectacular program we do. And then community, we have Community Day, and I have to say, this is my shameless plug, because if you live locally or you live in a driving distance, come back on July 13th. We host a Community Day. It's one of my favorite days of the summer. We have thousands of people who come to the Clark. It's free. We have food vendors, music, art making. The galleries are open, the exhibitions are open, and it's really not just for cute little kiddos like this, though we are delighted they're there, but it's intergenerational. It's for everyone, and it's a really celebratory moment in our summer season. And then just to touch upon what Denise was saying earlier, we really think of our entire campus, our 140 acres, is meant for the community. It's open 24 hours a day. I love in the summertime when the college kids come home, the local college kids, having pizza out by the reflecting pool as the sun is setting, or I oftentimes see people having picnics with a bottle of wine, and it's fabulous. And we really do want people to take advantage. And this summer we will have groundwork, which I mentioned before, so hopefully people will be exploring all aspects of our grounds. But our campus is truly intended for the community.
So I love what you said about communities, plural, and we feel the same at MASS MoCA. We are our communities, this community, and so many others. We're particularly dedicated to the North Adams communities and have 4 school partnerships where we bus in the kids, and they have field trips and art workshops. And when we have Downtown Celebration in North Adams, one year we interviewed all the people on the street about what is contemporary art, what is a museum, and everybody under 12 could tell us. But of course, then they do bring their parents back, and we're also really excited to serve teenagers. Actually, on the next slide, it's just, you see on the right our Teen Invitational for many years now. I think actually we've done that 13 times. We've invited teens from schools all over the region to show their art at MASS MoCA, and it's such a thrill. They're so excited. There's a big opening and a band and a huge celebration, and I'm always really impressed by the work that gets made. And you can see we have family story time for the little kids and art making. We also have teen activators, which is new. Teens from North Adams, Williamstown, all over the region really work with us in our public programs department and work with artists and really become embedded in MASS MoCA. And it's a really exciting program. And teenagers' minds are fascinating. Mm-hmm. My daughter's about to become one. I hope I say that after she turns 13. But I wanted to go back to what you said about Community Day. We used to have what we called Free Day or Free Days, and we've changed it recently to Community Day, and I think it's more apt because even though there's free admission, people come to that day who can afford the admission and do, but they come because there's such a celebration of the large community on those days. It feels like a rock show, but it's a moment to feel all the connections that we have. It's very exciting. We also have a really special program, which I can't show pictures of here, but we offer MASS MoCA as a site for parents who are in the system and who might be separated from their child for visitation. A nice place where you can see art and make art, and it's been really successful. And like you, it's one of the proud moments for us. But so we all could show you so many pictures of our community programs, and hopefully you've joined some of them. But again, I think we are our communities, all of them.
Well, I think, the Berkshire Arts Ecosystem, which is the topic that you've gathered us together under today, Denise, is really such a asset for us as we think about how to form community. And I mentioned before how excited I am about the signage for the new Williams College Museum of Art being a bus and being a bench and inviting participation, but also that, that it is a bus stop and that it really is a place where you can get off the bus and have your first view of Williamstown be the museum. But we all have students engaged with us, and I'm really excited about our summer Arts and Museum Immersion program, where students come together for 9 weeks over the course of a summer. This is the 4th year of this new program, and they have professional development. They live together. It's a living learning program. And they all learn from each other, but they learn from their mentors at the 3 museums. So we have interns at WCMA, we have interns at the Clark, we have interns at MASS MoCA. And I think the way that we come together as a community through students, and also offering students the opportunity to experience the summer in the Berkshires and the vibrant arts of the summers in the Berkshires, is a really huge addition with this program.
Yes, I mean, I think, student life is really essential to our ecosystem in all 3 museums. At the Clark, we're really delighted to have hosted the Williams College Graduate Program since 1972. And we live with these students. They're our interlocutors, they're our interns, they're our friends. They're so smart, I have to say. They just, we had graduation last weekend and a symposium where they presented their papers, and they're just the bright next things in the art world, and so we're just so fortunate to have them as colleagues and friends. Here I'm just showing you a snapshot, and Denise, I'm sorry because you reminded me I cut off California, which I didn't mean to do, but a snapshot of the constellation of Williams College graduates who have gone on to great careers in the arts, and this is just a smattering of some of those.
Esther is being modest because she is also was one of the smart young people who graduated from our Clark and Williams with a master's in history of art.
It is true. It is. As was Susan, we call ourselves the Williams Mafia, and we take it seriously. But no, I mean, I received an amazing education at the Clark, and then it's not just the graduate students, but we really spend our time with the undergraduate students. And here I'm just showing you. I don't know what's happening here, but they look like they're having fun. But I wanted to tell you that we have a specific program called EAFs at the Clark, and we issue them COWS cards, where they, of course, are always welcome with free admission to the Clark. But through this program, they're incentivized to repeatedly visit. So in their first visit, they receive a sticker of some art piece, I don't know what it is, on their, and I won't take you through each one, but this is very well regimented. On their 9th visit, they receive a voucher for a beverage in our cafe for them and a friend. And then on their 12th visit, they receive a $150 membership to the Clark, which is an incredible thing. It allows you to attend special programs. It also allows you to visit 1,000 reciprocal museums. So we take this relationship with students really seriously, and we, because they're our future, I would say.
Thank you. So MASS MoCA has a particularly wonderful program with the Williams College Graduate Program and the Clark, who underwrites it. Every year we pick one student from the incoming class, and they have a 2-year internship with us, and we work really closely with them. And in the second year, they mount an exhibition. These slides show 2. Eluding Capture was my intern, Jess Chen, who did a show on artists from Central Asia, which is really uncommon in the United States, and we got so much feedback about it and excitement. She was really pushing us forward. Currently, Riley Yun has a show called Dirty and Disorderly, yummy, appetizing, Contemporary Art Undiscussed, and she looks at it as a very powerful tool. But these students, they do such incredible things. They're sometimes if not always, my favorite exhibitions. And I always say, I learn as much from them as they do from me. But that network from these students that go out in the world is stunning. And we too are benefiting from the undergrad internship program that Pam was talking about. This was Rebecca Gross, who worked with us last summer. MASS MoCA is always hands-on. She's actually making art instead of writing about it here, but she did that too. But the connections with students are just really wonderful for both sides, and I'm sure, I mean, we keep in touch with all these students, and they come back, they become peers. So, and then should I just launch into this, or I was just going to say, I mean, we collaborate so often, and this could also be many, many slides, but at MASS MoCA, I show you the Silhouette, which is a retrospective that is made possible through collaboration with Yale and also the Williams College Museum of Art. Students come all the time in their classes to think about different disciplines through Lewitt. And then the image of the cow, the funny cow, is at a funeral for the Rhone Glacier in a film by Ohan Breiting, which is a current collaboration between the Williams College Museum of Art and MASS MoCA. So we could go on and on about those, but I just wanted to mention them quickly.
Well, sure, we could go on and on about institutional collaborations, but I kind of wonder if it's time to open it up for questions from the audience.
Yeah, please feel free to raise your hand and ask a question, and then I will repeat, or one of us will repeat the question.
Just right here.
Perhaps here.
Right here.
Right here.
Could you talk about financial sustainability? Each one of us give a 1 minute, 2 minutes on where your funds come from and what challenges you see in the future and what direction it might be.
Question is about each institution's financial sustainability, where our funds come from. Pam?
I can just start, and just because it's a very interesting question and very complex. Just in broad strokes, the Clark operates from an endowment, and I would say, to speak more to today and what's happening in the world, we also rely on grant funding, on philanthropy, and I think this is something we're all kind of watching because the world is changing really rapidly and there's so much uncertainty in the financial markets, in the philanthropic sector, and so it's a very interesting time to be doing what we're doing.
Agree. It's also, I would just want to add that it's an interesting time to be making a new building, and that requires a lot of fundraising, and it's been really exciting to partner with incredible philanthropists who've been so generous for this enterprise. One of the things that I would say about the Williams College Museum of Art project is that in addition to capital funds for the actual building, we've been planning from the very, very beginning for the ongoing maintenance and operations of the new museum and trying to anticipate what that will take staff-wise and otherwise. So we're embedded in the college, and we work within the college's approach to finances every year. We're always actively fundraising, but again, with the kind of ongoing operations and anticipating what it's going to take in the new building, just really trying to plan out in advance for that. And I will just, if it's okay, take this moment to say a big thank you to you, Denise, for your visionary gift to exactly this, the ongoing maintenance and care of the WCMA building at the museum standards that we need this building, which is as much a work of art as it is a house for works of art. And so keeping it in its most pristine condition is going to take something, and you're so visionary to have supported that. So I just want to take the moment to say that.
I did also. Now, I've certainly seen other projects, not necessarily at museums, where the building is built, but then the excitement goes away, and then there's deferred maintenance. And so I was working with Megan Morey with the college advancement team on what ways I could support the museum building going forward, knowing that there might be other naming opportunities that might appeal differently, that were more visible to different donors. And so they can do those, and I'll stay in the background. And one challenge I know at the Clark is with the different travel restrictions on people from overseas. If we are planning an exhibition, let's say, on work of French art, we might postpone that and next summer have something that is more easily accessible domestically, because we're not quite sure if we can plan something, if the team from overseas is going to be permitted to come into the country, or will it be delayed? And I think you said that we already have one fellow from, is it from Haiti, who was unable, or might probably will not be able to accept a position studying at the Clark. So in terms of the fiscal responsibility, it's also looking long-term at the cost of the exhibitions in terms of, can we partner with another museum, such as the Louvre or other museums, to reduce the cost of the exhibition?
So MASS MoCA is funded through grants and individual philanthropies and some state money and also federal money. We actually had an NEA grant and an IMLS grant recently pulled, which is unfortunate. So it is a rocky time for the finances of any museum. But MASS MoCA actually has another venue for financing, which is unusual, which you might like to hear about, which is we have tenants on our campus. So that's a revenue stream, which is unusual for a museum. And, you know, museums always have to be creative about new ways of raising money. And it's also not just about the money, it's also about creating a creative campus. And that's what we're really focusing on, is having the synergy between the folks who are renting space from us, the Berkshire Innovation Center, Kinetech, a firm that works with artists and AI, and Gary Lichtenstein's Silkscreen Print Studio. So they're more than tenants, they become collaborators, which is very, very exciting.
A question for Susan at MASS MoCA. WCMA and the Clark are lucky in their very rural settings. You are part of downtown North Adams, yet you're somewhat cut off. There's currently a study underway to deal with the Route 2 overpass bridge to somehow connect you better with the urban setting. Could you comment on where that study is?
Yeah, the question was MASS MoCA's position in a more urban area, and particularly about the Route 2 overpass. That study is being done now, and we're partnering with the city. It's one of those future projects that we're working hand in hand with the city. We're an anchor in North Adams, and our stability and the city's stability are really entwined. But I don't know the specifics of where the study on the overpass is, but I can put you in touch with a colleague who knows all the details. But we did get some strong support from the state and the federal level, but I don't know where those stand right now just because of the change in administration.
I also wanted to, just a quick question, just let you know that neither WCMA nor the Clark requested the renovation of South Street. So.
That's for sure.
That is very true.
Yeah, here.
Please, yes.
Clearly DEI programs and individuals are alive and well in Northern Berkshires, thank goodness. Are any of you and your funding being threatened by conditions on grants or other financial sources at all? And if so, how have you responded?
The question is that the prelude to the question is clearly diversity, equity, and inclusion are alive and well in the Northern Berkshires, and thank goodness for it. Yes. The question is whether the funding is imperiled by our commitment, and perhaps maybe the grant situation that you referred to, Susan, is the most immediate kind of.
Yeah, so the NEA grant that was promised to us in a different administration and an IMLS grant that was promised to us were rescinded, but our fearless leader, Christy Edmonds, immediately responded saying, well, they're staying up even though we lost some funding, and we're going to soldier on. I don't think we'd ever agree to any conditions tied to a grant, so to be continued, but it's happening. I think the fact that Jeffrey Gibson is both Indigenous and gay, and the content of the show speaks to those things, are part of the reason why the grant was rescinded.
I think the Clark is more conservative in its permanent exhibition, its temporary exhibitions, in part because our art is older, even though we do have contemporary art for groundwork. An example I could think of last summer's show was more academic on a French artist of color born in Guadeloupe named Guillaume Letière. And but I think that the subject was really fit so well within the Clark's academic focus and the history of art, and showed, even if you are not a particular fan of that style of art, to understand his history and how he navigated different regimes from Louis XVI through Napoleon and through the end of the Napoleonic Wars. So I think for the Clark, it's a little easier for us to be under the radar because we are, I don't think we advertise, oh, this is a work, this is an exhibition about an artist of mixed race, rather than this is just people don't assume that we are doing something that not only controversial, but edgy.
I would just, yes, absolutely. Just to reiterate what Pam said to the applause, we're committed in our ongoing programs and exhibitions to staying true to our mission, which is about inclusion to everyone, and that remains steadfast, I think, for all of us. Right.
Definitely.
Definitely. Yes.
I'm wondering, Pam, if you know what will become of Lawrence Hall.
Great question. There is currently a programming study underway to consider the best future uses for Lawrence Hall. We do know that the History of Art department offices and classrooms will stay in the building, and there does seem to be a lot of energy and momentum behind an arts-centered program in the rest of the building. But nothing has been determined finally yet. We do also all really recognize that it's a very important architecturally, in terms of architectural history, it's a very important building, and it will be an ongoing presence and continue to be beloved on campus.
Unlike the town field house.
Yes, I'm wondering, with three directors of the museum, how you address or manage the question of soundscape and sound within exhibitions and within galleries, and whether, not just in the design of the architecture and acoustics in a space and what they're trying to achieve, but also with the mounting of exhibitions, what kind of sound environment you might be creating. I know there's the exhibition that was earlier mentioned at MASS MoCA, which has some very loud music in one section of it. And I just wondered, are those decisions left, say at MASS MoCA, to the artist whose exhibition is being mounted, or these considerations for the museums generally? The whole issue of the kind of sonic atmosphere.
That's a really interesting question about questions about how we're thinking about sound in our programming and exhibitions. We recently had an exhibition at the Clark of the photographer Abe Morell, and who was very deeply moved by music and the history of music. And so, in fact, in a particular song called Landscape by Philip Glass, and our curator, who is a world-renowned, highly acclaimed pianist, recorded the piece, and we played it through the exhibition space. But what we had learned from a previous exhibition that also encompassed sound is that it can also be an accessibility concern. And so it's actually a really complicated and interesting museological topic. But I think sound in exhibitions can, when done well, can be really transformative and beautiful. And you're seeing it more and more in European institutions.
I'll just address the question about the Jeffrey Gibson. That felt very important to the artist and the curator. It was about the disco and also indigenous music, and it is quite loud. And not all of our exhibitions are that loud. It's usually a discussion between the artist and the curator and then the institution at some level. But we too are sensitive to the fact that it's not comfortable for everybody, and we are developing special hours and tours where you can actually have a quieter, less kind of frenetic experience of the museum.
I think I'll just tag on a tiny bit here and say that as part of our planning process for the curatorial program at WCMA, we are actively thinking and looking at case studies from other institutions of multi-sensory approaches to exhibition planning. And I think that that will continue to be a really important part of what we all do in terms of sort of inviting visitors to engage with the exhibitions and presentations that we make through multiple modes of perception.
One of the most wonderful changes I felt in museums was when the Met basically opened their stacks, you know, and then the Reynolds Center did it in Washington. And if I have a concern about a lot of newer museums, is frankly, there's just not as much stuff on the floor to see. You know, I guess I'm more used to curating my own visit to museums, but there's so much attention being given to spaces that, in fact, very often you go to the museum and there's just not that much stuff.
So the question...
So the answer to my question is, when you build WCMA, what access are people going to have to the actual collections that exist, not just what you are showing now?
Yep, not just what's on view on the walls. So the question is really building on the amazing development over the last decades to introduce study storage into certain museum approaches so that more of the collection is available in kind of visible storage. And there are a number of great examples of these, and you cited the Met, for example. And so the question is, at WCMA, how are we going to make the collection more accessible? And I will say that everything that we're doing with display spaces, the 4 classrooms that I mentioned, there's a collection research center in that study center as well. So there's 4 classrooms and a collection research space. And all of the storage, which is both on the lower level and on the ground floor, is all about making the collection accessible. And that is for display, but it's also for teaching, and it's also for research. And it's an incredibly active collection. Our collection's about half works on paper, and that is stored right next to the classrooms and the research center. And those can be called up at any point. Earlier, Esther mentioned the Grad Art Symposium last week for the class of 2025 from the Williams Clark Master's Program in Art History. And 2 of the qualifying papers were actually based on works from WCMA's collection. So this kind of opportunity to engage with the collection in all different ways and all different types of spaces is really central to what we're doing. We do expect to be able to show more than we have been able to in the past. And we're committed to rotating the collections and to thinking about how the works from the collection relate to works that are, to special exhibitions that are on view too. So really having a strong showing of our collection in the new building.
Just for you, I don't know if you've seen this in the news, but of interest perhaps, the Victoria and Albert Museum just opened a facility of open storage as a museum experience, and I haven't been yet, but it looks unbelievably interesting, but just as a model of what open access can be.
I'm curious when we will be able to see a few of the works from the Asso Davidian collection. Are some, as they are being accessioned, are some of them going to be interspersed on the walls of the museum, and if so, when?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I am pleased to tell you that we are planning a major summer exhibition for next summer featuring highlights from the collection. And it will be a wonderful kind of taste of what is to come. And we're really excited to be able to share that with everyone. If you're interested, you can access the full gift on our website, because as we've mentioned, our website is our greatest asset for open access. And so people know what we're doing and what we have. But we are planning an exhibition to launch this really exciting next chapter for our institution.
And I think when, about the time that the WCMA Museum will be opening, the Clark hopes to start breaking ground on the Asso Davidian wing nestled between the two buildings, which is kind of fortunate because there are only so many really good local contractors that they can't do both at once.
Keeping the economy churning, yes.
That's right. That's right.
I just have one question for the director. Does maybe it was the college or maybe it was Whitman, I can't remember. Do you still retain copies of student work from senior exhibitions?
So every year, let me repeat the question, thank you. The question is, do we retain the works from the Senior Studio Art Show that happens at the end of the academic year for the art majors who are graduating? And there is actually a really exciting collaboration with the library where a jury comes to the Senior Studio Art exhibition and selects a work of art that will be on view in the library. This collaboration is a problem, I can't remember off the top of my head, 3 or 4 years old. It's pretty new, maybe a little more. I think there was maybe 5 years old. But it's a great new collaboration that not only brings Williams graduates' art into the Williams collections, but also really enhances the art presence on campus by installing that work in the library.
I think what Beck really wants to know is, what did you do with all the stuff that Tom Kranz yanked from all of our portfolios the day before we graduated?
Yeah, I want to know if we're in the museum.
I will have to look into that. I don't know the background to that, but I'm glad for the clarification. Thank you.
They might be in his house. He's got a good art collection. Actually, I have a question for you about the senior show. Is it still up right now? Because
it actually just closed. The tradition is that the seniors pick up their work after commencement. So.
I see, okay. Because it was great this year. It looked like graduate work or actually postgraduate work.
It was an excellent exhibition this year, and it was actually the faculty sponsor of the exhibition was Ohan Breiting, whose work we have on view in the collaborative show that you talked about earlier. So I agree, it was a great exhibition. Yes. For those of you who are around for the rest of the weekend and have little windows of time amidst all of the various reunion activities, there is a new art fair happening at Tourists. It's called Arrival. I think there will be about 30 galleries represented. They'll actually take over the hotel rooms at Tourists, and the gallerists will show the work of the artists that they represent in those rooms. There is also a handful of nonprofit spaces, including WCMA, and we will have many of the renderings that I showed today, but also material samples and models in one of the rooms, and the architects from Soil will be around all weekend. It is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. I think it's 10 to 5 on Friday and Saturday, and 10 to 4 on Sunday. It's free. They just ask that you register online to let them know you're coming. But it's an exciting new addition to the to art in the Berkshires. Tourist is a hotel that is just over the border to North Adams from when you're coming from Williamstown on Main Street.
Is that where the Grand Union was?
It's right across from the Stop and Shop. To orient you.
And
Or Trail House.
If I can also just again reiterate that you are warmly welcome to the Clark this weekend as we open our summer program with an exhibition called A Room of Her Own. So you're very busy with your reunion activities, but there is a very festive public opening party, and you're just welcome to come. That's on Friday evening or this weekend. And it's a fabulous exhibition featuring the work of 25 women artists who deserve to be better known. It's really, really great. See you there.
Thank you all for coming. I did want to. Yeah.